Hey viewers, there's been a lot of online discussion about Fallout 4's next-gen update, but essentially zero official news about it. Literally, the only sources on this update are one paragraph in Bethesda's 25th Anniversary of Fallout blog post from October 2022, and a Twitter post from December 2023 announcing the update's delay until 2024. And of course, both of these posts are incredibly vague about what's actually going to be in the update, so saying pretty much anything amounts to baseless speculation. And I love baseless speculation, so let's do some. It'll be fun to look back at this video in a few months and see what I got right and what I got wrong. I originally thought back in 2022 that Bethesda was going to drop the update in early summer 2023 to give Fallout 4 one last hurrah before focusing on their new Starfield cash cow. However, that time frame came and went with not only no release, but not even a quick post informing us about what was going on until December. At this point, like pretty much everyone else, I'm thinking the update is launching sometime in April 2024 to synergize with the Fallout TV series' release. That's one thing I can never fault Bethesda for. Their marketing is always perfect. If only their games could be half as good as their marketing campaigns. But then there'd be no market for Bethesda criticism on YouTube. My goose would be cooked. Anyways, the release date interests me less than pondering what the update might contain, so I'll list off all the predictions I've heard online and go over just how plausible I think they are. First prediction, and this is an easy one, the script extender is going to break. Every update breaks the script extender, so this should come as no surprise. Hopefully the F4 SE team will get a new version out within a day or two to mitigate the damage. Once the script extender and address library are updated, 99% of F4 SE mods should be back in working order. One theory I saw online is that there will be a 120 FPS mode for consoles, and I really don't think so. The update is likely going to take us to 60 FPS at 4K for both the Series X and PS5, and down to 60 FPS at 1920 by 1080 for the Series S. Perhaps there will be some dynamic resolution shenanigans or cuts to the God rays and shadow settings to make the frame rate solid, but that's how it's going to be at the very best. Now, if Bethesda is feeling especially lazy and shitty, they might actually just lock the 60 FPS mode to 1080p on all platforms to make it perfectly consistent. It would be very disappointing to receive a performance mode no better than the FPS boost option Microsoft already provides after waiting over a year for this update, but Bethesda has a long track record of delivering the bare minimum. It's what we should expect at this point. And you can forget about 120 frames per second, that's not even a realistic proposition because of Fallout 4's horrible CPU-limited performance. Even on my 7800 X3D in a CPU-limited 640 by 480 test at the top of the Corvega factory when looking directly over Lexington, the worst area in the game to my knowledge, I can drop down to 140 FPS, and you can cut that number in half for the next-gen consoles, no matter what resolution or graphical cutbacks Bethesda makes. If they do add a 120 FPS mode, it'll be a really shoddy 120 FPS, only consistent in interiors and constantly dropping below that when outside, especially in downtown Boston and Lexington. Bethesda didn't add a crappy 60 FPS mode to Starfield on the Xbox Series X when they totally could've, so I highly doubt we'll get a crappy 120 FPS mode for Fallout 4. Regardless, I certainly hope they fix physics being tied to the frame rate. It must not be a particularly difficult issue to solve since Bethesda was able to patch out this flaw entirely in Fallout 76 after less than a month, and Starfield released without a 60 FPS cap. I read a few people suggesting this update could add Raytracing to Fallout 4, and I'd say that's a laughable idea. There's no Raytracing in Starfield, there's no way Bethesda would add it to an 8-year-old game that doesn't even have a modern PBR texture workflow set up for Raytracing to look right. Maybe they could add ray-traced shadows like GTA 5 did with its expanded and enhanced cash grab update, but I highly doubt it. PBR textures are another very unlikely addition, but it's a little more plausible because most of the necessary textures could theoretically be backported from Fallout 76. It would take a lot of effort to do this, and it would greatly change the look of many art assets though. There's also the possibility this change could screw over the entire modding community by breaking all their textures. My hope is that Bethesda simply leaves Fallout 4's textures alone. Yes, they're gross and disgusting, but changing them now after 8 years would make too much of a mess. Perhaps Bethesda will force the old high-definition texture pack DLC onto console players. That would be an easy way for them to falsely claim they've made graphical improvements to Fallout 4. It would be bad for console players, but not nearly as potentially game-breaking as adding real PBR. While I'd like to see the distant weather systems and expanded LODs backported to Fallout 4 from 76, I don't know how much of a toll that would exact on the frame rate. It seems like it would break all our weather mods and landscape mods as well. Again, Bethesda should just leave it alone. Same with Previsibene fixes. The Previsibene's Repair Pack mod proves there's an unbelievable amount of performance being left on the table thanks to Bethesda not building their precombine and previs data properly. Thing is, if they do rebuild the entire game's Previsibenes, it'll likely break compatibility with a ton of mods and turn into a complete nightmare. Likewise, while it would be nice if Bethesda could touch up some of the Z-fighting and floating objects everywhere, again, that could hurt mod compatibility. Moving any object that's part of a precombine requires you to regenerate them. I'd really love to see bullet-counted reload support added into the engine for the lever-action rifle and exposed so modders can use it too. Once again, Fallout 76 already has this. This change might break a few weapon mods, but it would be well worth it in my opinion. Still, because it's a good idea, I don't consider it likely to happen. Fallout 76's radial quick menu and consume ingestible buttons would be great additions too, and I don't think they'd cause too many headaches for modders. But again, I'm not holding my breath. Bethesda didn't promise any quality of life improvements after all. An FOV slider is definitely out of the cards, unless the maximum allowed FOV is something pathetic like 90, which is barely more than the vanilla 80 FOV. Increasing FOV in Fallout 4 greatly increases CPU demands. Remember my test at the top of the Corvega factory where I dropped down to 140 FPS? Well, at 90 FOV, I only get 125 FPS. At 110 FOV, that's reduced to 100 FPS. So there's no way Bethesda is going to add a decent FOV slider, especially not for consoles. I hope Bethesda will fix at least a few of the bugs plaguing Fallout 4 since its release. I was going to make a video showcasing another 8 of them, but I figured I should wait until after the next-gen update, so I can see what bugs have been fixed and which ones are still there. If I was to list off all the bugs that need to be fixed, we'd be here for another 30 minutes, but here's a few. Getting stuck in terminals, birds getting stuck on everything, branches waving at supersonic speed, level 4 merchants disappearing, the VATS freeze in survival mode. Hell, just play the game for a dozen hours and write down all the bugs you encounter, and you'll easily fill up a whole page. There needs to be at least some fixes to make this update worthwhile, and most importantly, we need a fix for the crashing problems in downtown Boston. People have been screaming about these crashes for years and years. If Bethesda is listening even a little, they need to give us some kind of fix for this. Personally, I haven't had the game crash on me once since I downgraded my classic holstered weapons to version 1.04C. While doing my new challenge run, I have not experienced a single crash in downtown Boston with about 90 plugins loaded. This kind of crashing might be more of a problem for console users rather than PC. Another huge problem for console users over the past 8 years has been the 2GB mod partition limit. There's plenty of large Quest mods that could have made their way to Xbox if only the limit was larger. I don't know what Bethesda was thinking making it 2 gigs. If this update is going to break everyone's load order anyways, maybe it's the perfect opportunity to increase the limit to something more reasonable like 10 gigabytes. From a cynical perspective, however, it would be a smart idea to keep Fallout 4 mods on console in a bad state so as not to cannibalize the nascent Starfield modding scene when its creation kit finally drops. Bethesda didn't increase Skyrim's 5GB mod size limit with its 10th anniversary update, or with their new paid mods update, so I wouldn't predict they'll increase Fallout 4's mod partition size with this update. No, but they're guaranteed to add loads of new Creation Club content. Maybe they'll even add the same paid mods workshop Skyrim recently got. If they're going to do that, the least they could do is fix the many bugs related to Creation Club content and maybe integrate it into the game more naturally instead of dumping it on you the second you leave the vault. Skyrim's anniversary update did that pretty well, or so I've heard. There's no way I'm buying the anniversary upgrade to find out for myself. I'll wrap up by saying this next-gen update could either be a definitive final revision of Fallout 4 that mostly fixes its long-standing issues, or it could be one last attempt to milk a few more dollars out of the Fallout 4 cash cow before getting the Starfield gravy train on the rails. After examining Bethesda's track record for the past decade, I think it's a safe bet to assume this update will be the latter more than the former. I'm honestly infinitely more excited about Fallout London than anything Bethesda has planned for us. I certainly hope the next-gen update doesn't put a spanner in the works for its release. That's all I have to say. I hope this video doesn't age well because that would mean Bethesda has positively surprised me for once. Toodles, everybody.